Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're heading over to Singapore
Ooh, Singapore.
to take a look at how they're using open educational resources to teach physics,
Nice.
specifically energy concepts.
Oh,
And you might be surprised to learn that the key to this approach is actually a piece of software that's found on every
what?
school computer in the entire country.
Every school computer. That's amazing. I wouldn't necessarily
I
think
know, right?
that a nation known for being on the cutting edge of technology would also be a leader
No.
in open access to education.
Yeah, and it's not just about access, though.
Okay.
The sources we're diving into today detail a 2017 workshop
Okay.
hosted by the Singapore Ministry of Education that focused on using open-source physics software
Interesting.
called Tracker.
Tracker.
I know 2017 might seem like ages ago,
Yeah,
but trust me, the insights from this workshop are still incredibly relevant today,
I believe it.
especially in the ever-evolving landscape of educational technology.
Absolutely. This workshop wasn't just a one-off event.
Right.
It represents a broader commitment to incorporating innovative teaching methods using open educational resources,
Yes.
which are essentially teaching materials that are freely available for anyone to use, adapt, and redistribute.
And that's where the licensing comes in.
Okay.
These resources are typically released under Creative Commons licenses, often the Attribution Share-alike license,
I see.
which means you can modify them and share your modifications as long as you credit the original creator
Right.
and use the same license.
Gotcha.
So how does this all play out in the classroom? Well, the workshop targeted upper secondary and junior college physics teachers
Yeah.
with the goal of making learning about energy more engaging and effective.
Makes sense.
They wanted to move beyond those dusty textbooks.
It really did.
Yeah.
And by making Tracker centrally installable on every school computer,
It's wild.
they removed a major hurdle to adoption.
Right.
Imagine the potential when every single teacher has the opportunity to utilize these tools.
Incredible. And the workshop went beyond simply introducing the software.
Oh.
They actually dove into the pedagogy behind it,
Okay.
emphasizing hands-on activities,
Nice.
collaborative learning,
I like it.
and even peer teaching, where teachers who are already familiar with Tracker mentored their colleagues.
That's a really effective way to foster a sense of community and encourage collaboration.
For sure.
Speaking of community, they even had color-coded name tags to indicate experience levels with Tracker.
Oh, wow.
A simple but brilliant way to connect those who are new to the software with more experienced users.
That's so smart. It's like having a built-in support system right there at the workshop.
Exactly.
And they didn't stop there.
What else?
They also integrated other popular digital tools like Kahoots and Nearpod, showing teachers how these open resources can be blended into their existing digital ecosystems.
It's about meeting teachers where they are
Yes.
and providing them with practical, adaptable solutions.
Ab-
They even dedicated time to addressing the specific challenges teachers might face when integrating new technology into their classrooms.
Smart.
Yeah.
And speaking of practical,
Okay.
they didn't just throw teachers into the deep end and leave them to fend for themselves.
Right.
They provided worksheets with step-by-step instructions
Right.
and even created a dedicated WhatsApp group for ongoing professional development and resource sharing.
Providing that ongoing support is crucial for building a sustainable ecosystem for open-source physics education.
For sure.
It's about creating a community of practice where teachers can learn from each other, share their experiences,
Yeah.
and troubleshoot any challenges they might encounter.
It sounds like they really thought of everything.
They did a great job.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's zoom in on Tracker itself.
Right.
How exactly does this software help teach energy concepts?
Tracker is essentially a video analysis tool
Okay.
that can be used to study a wide range of physical phenomena, from simple motion experiments to more complex interactions.
Okay.
Imagine being able to analyze a video of a ball toss frame by frame to understand how energy transforms from potential to kinetic and back again.
Wait, so instead of just memorizing formulas, students could actually see these concepts in action?
Precisely.
Wow.
And they're not just passively watching.
Wow.
They can design their own experiments,
Uh-huh.
collect data using Tracker,
Yeah.
and then analyze that data to draw their own conclusions.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's about moving beyond rote learning and fostering a deeper, more intuitive understanding of physics.
Exactly.
This all sounds amazing.
It is.
But wouldn't it require a pretty significant shift in teaching practices?
It would.
How did the workshop address that potential challenge?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that the workshop organizers were mindful of.
Okay.
They actually invited a teacher who had already successfully integrated ICT into her classroom
Oh, nice.
to share her experiences, including the challenges she faced and how she overcame them.
So it's about learning from those who have already paved the way.
Exactly.
That's so valuable.
Yeah.
And what about the specific content covered in the workshop?
Sure.
Did they just focus on Tracker? Or did they delve into other aspects of open source physics?
They covered a wide range of topics,
Like what?
from using Tracker to investigate energy in both horizontal and vertical motion,
Okay.
to exploring pre-built open source physics simulations that visualize complex physics concepts.
Wow.
They even dedicated time to helping teachers develop mathematical thinking skills
Nice.
through hands-on activities and problem-solving exercises.
It sounds like a really comprehensive approach.
It was.
But I'm curious, what was the overall feedback like from the teachers who participated?
It was great.
Really?
Were they receptive to this new way of teaching physics?
Yeah. Were they?
The feedback was overwhelmingly positive.
That's fantastic. But surely there were some suggestions for improvement.
Of course, there's always room for improvement.
Right.
Some teachers requested more hands-on time with the software,
I can see that.
while others wanted more guidance on customizing activities for different learning levels.
Makes sense.
There was also a desire for more detailed, step-by-step guides.
Yeah.
Which is understandable when you're learning a new tool.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like they took that feedback seriously, though.
Yeah?
Especially with the worksheets and the WhatsApp group.
They did.
So they weren't just interested in introducing these tools.
Mhm.
They were committed to supporting teachers throughout the implementation process.
Absolutely. And that's what sets this initiative apart.
Right.
It wasn't just about showcasing shiny new technology.
Okay.
It was about empowering teachers to become creators and innovators,
I like that.
building a sustainable ecosystem for open source physics education in Singapore.
That's a great point. This wasn't just about teaching software.
Right?
It was about changing the way physics is taught and learned.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it had a significant impact on the participating teachers.
It did.
But what about the students?
Good question.
How did this approach ultimately benefit them?
That's a fantastic question, and one that's at the heart of this deep dive.
Okay.
It's about more than just tools and workshops.
Right.
It's about creating a more engaging and effective learning experience for every student.
Let's explore that in part 2. I can't wait to dive even deeper into the impact of this approach on student learning.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
All right. The impact of this workshop went far beyond those teachers sitting in that room.
So we're talking like ripple effects?
Exactly. The Ministry of Education didn't just invest in a workshop.
Right.
They invested in a shift in how physics is taught and learned.
Yeah?
Think about the chain reaction they set off by equipping teachers with these open source tools
Okay.
and fostering a collaborative environment.
Okay, I'm following you.
Yeah.
Teachers get excited, they bring that energy into their classrooms.
Exactly.
Students get more engaged. And suddenly physics isn't just a bunch of formulas on a dusty chalkboard.
It becomes something they can see and interact with.
Right.
Imagine a classroom where a student who used to struggle with abstract energy concepts
Yeah.
can now watch a ball sail through the air and use Tracker to actually track its movement, calculate its velocity,
Okay.
and see how energy is transformed along its path.
That makes so much sense. It's one thing to memorize a formula, but it's another to actually visualize and understand how it applies in the real world.
And that deeper understanding leads to those aha moments,
Yeah.
the moments when a concept clicks and suddenly it all makes sense.
Right.
That's what sparks a love of learning.
But let's step back for a moment and consider the long-term implications of this approach.
Okay.
It's not just about a single workshop or a single year of teaching.
No.
We're talking about a fundamental shift towards open educational resources.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Open educational resources are meant to be shared and adapted,
Right.
which means the impact of this workshop can extend far beyond the walls of those classrooms.
Gotcha.
These teachers can share their newfound knowledge and resources with colleagues across Singapore and even globally.
So it's a sustainable approach to education reform, one that can benefit countless teachers and students over time.
Exactly. And it's cost effective too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We all know textbooks and proprietary software can be incredibly expensive, especially for under-resourced schools.
Yeah, definitely.
Open resources remove those financial barriers, allowing schools to invest in other crucial areas like professional development for teachers
Right.
or additional support for students.
It's truly a win-win situation.
It is.
But let's get back to Tracker for a moment.
Okay.
I'm still a little fuzzy on how this video analysis software actually enhances the learning experience.
Tracker is incredibly versatile.
Okay.
You can use it to study everything from simple motion experiments to more complex interactions. Let's say you want to explore projectile motion. Students could film a basketball being thrown through a hoop,
Yeah.
then use Tracker to track its position in each frame of the video.
Hold on. Are you telling me they could actually calculate the basketball speed and acceleration just by analyzing a video?
That's exactly what Tracker allows them to do.
Whoa.
They can even model the basketball's trajectory and compare it to the theoretical predictions based on physics principles.
Wow, that's so much more engaging than just plugging numbers into equations and hoping for the best.
It helps students bridge the gap between abstract concepts and their real-world applications. But here's the really exciting part.
Okay, what's up?
They're not limited to analyzing existing videos.
Oh,
With Tracker, they can design their own experiments, film them, collect data, and analyze their results, just like real scientists.
that's amazing. It shifts the focus from passive learning to active inquiry and exploration.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how this approach could really transform the way physics is taught.
It's not just about transforming the student experience, though. Open source physics also has a significant impact on teachers.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine having access to a vast library of pre-made activities, simulations, and experiments that you can easily adapt and incorporate into your lesson plans.
It's like having a team of curriculum developers at your fingertips.
Totally.
It frees up so much time for teachers to focus on what they do best.
Yeah.
Guiding discussions, providing personalized feedback, and creating a supportive learning environment where students can thrive.
And because these resources are open,
Right.
teachers can share their adaptations and modifications with others,
Yes.
creating a continuous cycle of improvement and innovation.
It's a beautiful example of collaborative knowledge sharing.
I love that.
It's not just about consuming existing resources.
Right.
It's about actively contributing to a global community of educators who are all striving to improve physics education.
We've talked about the benefits for students and teachers,
Right.
but it feels like we're just scratching the surface of the ripple effects this approach can have. What happens when an entire school or even a school district embraces open source physics?
It can spark a culture of innovation and continuous improvement, not just in physics classrooms, but across all disciplines.
So we could see history teachers incorporating physics simulations into their lessons.
Possibly.
Or English teachers using scientific inquiry methods to analyze literature.
It breaks down those silos between subjects and allows for more holistic, interdisciplinary learning experiences.
That's awesome.
Ultimately, it's about fostering a lifelong love of learning and encouraging students to become critical thinkers, problem solvers, and innovators.
I'm genuinely inspired by all of this. We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah.
From the specifics of that Singapore workshop to the broader implications of open source physics.
It's been great.
But I want to bring it back to our listener for a moment.
Okay.
Imagine you're a student who's always struggled with physics.
Okay.
Or maybe you're someone who just never had the opportunity to explore these concepts in a meaningful way.
This approach offers a new pathway to understanding and appreciating the wonders of science.
Yeah.
It's about opening doors that were previously closed.
And it's not just limited to formal education settings.
Right.
Think about the potential of open source physics in museums, libraries, after-school programs, or even just for self-directed learning at home.
The accessibility and engaging nature of these tools makes them ideal for informal learning environments.
Yeah.
They can spark curiosity, encourage exploration,
Uh-huh.
and empower individuals of all ages to delve into the beauty and complexity of the physical world.
It's about democratizing access to knowledge and making learning a joyful and enriching experience for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
This is what's so exciting about the open educational resources movement.
I agree.
It's about empowering individuals, fostering collaboration, and creating a more equitable and engaging learning landscape for all.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
It's clear that open source physics has the potential to revolutionize the way we teach and learn.
For sure.
But before we get too carried away, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the potential challenges or drawbacks of this approach.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it all sunshine and roses?
Yeah.
Or are there some thorns to consider as well?
That's an important question, and one we'll delve into right after the break. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore some of the complexities and nuances of implementing open source physics in a variety of educational contexts.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've spent the last two parts unpacking the power of open source physics,
We have.
exploring its potential to really transform how we teach and learn.
Yeah.
But as with any innovative approach, I think it's really important to consider the whole picture.
Right.
And that includes,
Challenges.
yeah, the potential challenges.
Open source physics isn't a magic bullet,
Right.
and there are definitely some complexities to navigate.
For sure.
One thing that comes to mind is the issue of quality control.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big one.
With such a vast library of freely available resources,
Right.
it can be tough to ensure that everything is accurate and pedagogically sound.
That's a valid concern.
It is.
I imagine it puts a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of teachers
Definitely.
to carefully vet and select the resources they use.
Absolutely. It requires a discerning eye
Yeah.
and a solid understanding of the underlying physics concepts.
Right.
Teachers need to be able to critically evaluate these resources
Mm.
and determine whether they align with their curriculum goals and teaching style.
It sounds like professional development and ongoing support are crucial
Oh, absolutely.
to help teachers make those informed decisions.
Couldn't agree more. Teachers need access to training and resources
For sure.
that help them develop the skills to not only use open source physics tools effectively, but also to critically evaluate and adapt them to their specific needs.
So it's not just about learning the software.
Right.
It's about fostering a deeper understanding of the pedagogical principles behind it.
Exactly. And it's also about building a community of practice
Right.
where teachers can share their experiences, best practices,
Uh-huh.
and even cautionary tales about resources that might not be as effective as they initially appeared.
Yeah, it's that collaborative spirit we've been talking about throughout this whole deep dive.
For sure.
It's about empowering teachers to become discerning curators and creators of knowledge,
Absolutely.
rather than just passive consumers of pre-made materials.
I like that.
And speaking of challenges,
Okay.
another one that comes up is the issue of technical support.
Right.
With open source software,
Yeah.
you don't always have a dedicated company or help desk to turn to when things go wrong.
That's true.
And I can see how that could be a barrier for some teachers who might not be as tech savvy.
It can be, but thankfully, the open source physics community is incredibly strong and supportive.
Okay, good.
There are numerous online forums,
Yeah.
discussion groups, and even dedicated websites
Awesome.
where teachers can connect with each other,
Uh-huh.
share tips, and troubleshoot technical issues.
It sounds like it's all about leveraging the collective wisdom of the crowd.
It is.
That's cool.
And many of the developers of these open source tools are also active in those communities,
Well, that's good.
offering guidance and support to users.
That's reassuring. But
Yeah.
even with that support network,
Yeah.
wouldn't it still require a significant investment of time and effort for teachers to really learn and implement these new tools?
There's no denying that there's a learning curve involved,
Right.
but I think it's important to weigh that against the potential benefits.
Of course.
We've talked about how open source physics can lead to more engaging lessons,
Yeah.
deeper understanding,
Hmm.
and even cost savings for schools.
It's about shifting the focus from short-term challenges to those long-term gains.
Exactly. And the beauty of open source software is that it's constantly evolving and improving.
That's a good point.
As more teachers adopt these tools and contribute their expertise, the resources become even more robust and user-friendly.
It's a virtuous cycle of innovation and collaboration. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how open source physics fits into the broader landscape of education reform.
Okay.
We're seeing a growing emphasis on things like personalized learning, project-based learning, and 21st century skills.
Right.
Does open source physics align with those trends?
Absolutely.
Really?
Open source physics empowers teachers to create more personalized learning experiences
Okay.
by allowing them to tailor activities and simulations to the specific needs and interests of their students.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Not at all. It's about providing teachers with a flexible toolkit that they can use to create dynamic and engaging learning environments.
Right.
And as for project-based learning, open source physics is a natural fit.
I can see that. Imagine students using Tracker to analyze the physics of their own designs
Exactly.
in like a makerspace or an engineering project.
That's a great example. And think about the 21st century skills that are being developed in the process.
Like what?
Critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, communication, and digital literacy.
It's about equipping students with the skills they need to succeed in such a rapidly changing world.
Precisely. Open source physics isn't just about teaching physics.
Right.
It's about preparing students for the future.
I love that. This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the nuts and bolts of Tracker to the broader implications of open source physics for education.
It's been great.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of not only what open source physics is, but also its potential to transform the way we teach and learn.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into open source physics.
Great.
I hope you found it as enlightening and thought-provoking as we did.
I did.
If you're feeling inspired to explore the world of open source physics,
Yeah.
be sure to check out the links and resources we've included in the episode description.
Great idea.
There's a whole universe of knowledge waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely.
Happy exploring.